answer. Okay.
You're all spitzy.
So.
But just think when you have children, how he could...
All my kids are going to be on video.
It's a wonderful thing.
So maybe you could just start by... Tell us as far back as you could remember where your family came from and what you know about your great-great-great-great-grandparents. The farthest back that you know.
As far back as I know...
And you're going to talk to Leah and tell her as far back as you could possibly remember that you've been told or that where your family came from.
Well, I lived on the Heights my whole life.
Farther, like your grandparents.
Where did your family? Where did the Strausses come from? Or where?
My parents came from Russia. My mother and my father. My mother was married and she was 17 years old. She had a child at 18. And she worked for an overall place. She used to sew. And then she married my dad, who they met here in America. And she used to live with her father and a stepmother. And her stepmother was she was bitchy, put it this way. So she had a sister here, and her sister said, "You want to get out of the house? I'll tell you what to do. You take the blue clothes and wash them with the white ones, and everything will turn blue. And your stepmother will throw you out of the house." So that's what she did. And her stepmother that was an aunt of mine, and her stepmother threw her out of the house. And she went and lived with her sister. Now, my father used to teach them to go over to the saloon to get them beer. And he'd say to them, you know, they would use these pails for beer. He'd say, now you go in and ask for 5 cents beer, and don't forget the pretzels. That's what you would call it. Okay, what else?
Well, tell me, what were your...
Now, when I was...
Your parents were the ones that came over from Russia.
My parents came from Russia.
What about their parents?
About their parents?
Like, do you know anything?
I don't know anything about my dad's parents. The only thing I know about is my mother's.
Okay.
He's the one, my mother's father, got married 5 times.
What was his name?
Morris Swetlitz, and he was a plumber. In fact, I used to write his bills for him. And his first 2 wives passed away in Europe.
From what?
From sickness, and one fell down the steps. The 3rd wife, she was a miserable thing, but he had 5 children with her. Okay? The 4th wife was the most wonderful person in the world. We used to call her Tante Have. Yeah, and...
what was her name?
They were married 20 years. And then he married the 5th time. See, all his wives died. That's how he went. And according to the Jewish religion, you're supposed to get married right away. So he married a woman from New York, and she was a miserable thing. But she outlived him. They only lived with each other a year. Because I remember him being in the hospital, and I was graduating high school. And I went to the hospital to see him. And at GAR, when we graduated, the fellas wore dark suits and the girls wore white evening gown. And I went up to see him. He wanted to see me, how I would look. And let's see what else.
What were your parents' names?
Morris and Anna Strauss. And my dad had a grocery store on Market Street up on the hill. And my parents belonged to the Prentice Schule. And that's where my dad had his grocery store. And then he used to huckster on the road, my father. He owned a horse and wagon. Yeah. And when he'd make up his wagon, it was the most beautiful thing to see, the way he displayed his grow, you know, vegetables and fruits and everything. And then a few years later, he bought a truck and he hired a fella to drive him around. Because none of us drove, you know, and we were too young. Then finally, later on in life, he bought a brand new Chrysler, which he paid, still know it was a color green, and it was $600. Would you believe, a brand new Chrysler? And my brother, Abe, he's the one that started to drive. Okay, what else?
So do you know anything about any of your parents, your grandparents? Like anything about when they were in Russia? Do you know anything about their lives?
No.
Do you remember where they came from in Russia?
The only thing I knew is my dad came from Poland. And I guess my mother must have came from Poland.
Was that Poland that was annexed by Russia, or?
Yeah.
So
Actually, Poland, I think, was like Russia, you know, was connected with Russia.
Maybe Russia took.
I'm trying to think of the name of the place that they.
The shtetl, or the village.
Where I can't think of it. I really can't. What else?
Well, tell me, do you remember how they came over? Was there any story about how your parents came over? Were they little kids when they came to the United States?
I have no idea when they come over. I know my grandfather, when they first come over, he brought my mother with him and another son. And my mother's sister, he had left over in Europe until he could afford to send enough money. He had to send like $25 to bring her back over. And she was about 13 years old when she was brought over. But otherwise, I don't know anything about.
Do you know what life was like when they first came to the United States?
Well, listen, my dad, he always huckstered. Really. That's what he did. And my mother used to work, like I told you, in sewing overalls. I'm trying to think of the people that owned it. I can't think of their name. But that's what she did.
So, do you know, did they come alone? When your father came over, did he have brothers and sisters, or?
Well, I don't know. I know he had two brothers over here and two sisters, my dad had. My mother, she just had this one sister and a brother when they came over, because she took care of her brother. His name was Uncle William. Yeah, his name was William. And he happened to, I don't know what he did, but he did very well in America. He was very well to do. What he did, I don't. Oh, no, he had a nightclub. Yeah, he did. He had a nightclub out in West Virginia.
So your parents met in the United States?
My parents...
Did they meet each other here?
Yeah,
Do
yeah.
you know that story about how your parents got together?
They used to sit on the porch, and my dad used to go there and, you know, keep them company, and little by little they, I guess, got married. What did you do in those years? Not like you do today, you know.
They didn't date?
I don't think so. He'd send them for beer. That's the date they had. But,
So do you know, so you said in that one picture was your grandparents at your wedding? Was that your grandparents?
yeah.
What were their names?
It was Morris and, what did I,
Wait, your grandparents?
my grandparents, George Swetlitz and Tante Hava. That was his wife. That's what referred.
fifth one.
Huh?
The fifth one.
The third one.
Okay.
The third one was Tante. No, the fourth one was Tante Hava. Wonderful. She used to sew for us. She'd make a skirt because I was so skinny. And a skirt would never stay on me, so she would make a skirt for me with the midi tops. Remember when, well, you wouldn't remember, but they'd make a midi top that the skirt didn't hang on you.
So tell me, do you remember your childhood? Growing up?
Yeah, I would watch it. Well, when I was 12 years old, I was hit with a car.
Oh yeah, tell that story.
Yeah. Running across the street, and the car hit me, and I went flying.
And what happened to you?
Huh?
What happened to you?
I practically lost all my teeth. Yeah, I fell on my mouth. You know where the sewer is on the side in the roads? That grate. That's where I fell. I flew. They told me I flew up. In fact, I wore a red coat, and I flew up, and the woman was drunk. In fact, the man ran out trying to stop her, and they finally stopped her. We got a lawyer, but I don't know whether the lawyer was paid off or something, but we didn't get nothing.
Were you scared? Do you remember? Were you nervous?
Oh my God. And in fact, it was Halloween the next 2 days, 2 days after. And I couldn't, I was in the classroom, but they wouldn't let me march or nothing. I had to stand and look out the window.
So you lived in the Heights?
Lived in the Heights my whole life.
The Heights part of Wilkes-Barre.
Even after I got married, I lived on the Heights.
Where did you live? Like, what street did you live on when you were a child?
You mean when I got married?
No, when you were.
No, when I lived on South Hancock Street, and my grandfather owned a home. He owned a couple of properties, and I lived there with my parents, whatchamacallit. And there was 6 of us.
Tell me a little bit about your parents. What they were like.
I had wonderful parents. My father was unbelievable. He had our grocery store, and when he would get his fruit and vegetables in, he would say, Ruthie likes the peaches, or Gertie liked this, and he would take the best fruit, the best vegetables, and put them aside for us. He wouldn't give us I don't want to say the word. No, he wouldn't give us the junk. He picked the best for his children. He said, there's nothing like putting the best in your stomach. And my mother was hardworking. She worked in the store all the time. What else can I tell you about my parents?
Hold on 1 second.
And my dad passed away. He was a young man. He was only in his 60s when my dad died.
Hold on 1 second. I just want to fix your necklace.
So what did then your grandfather do to be able to buy multiple properties?
He was a plumber.
And he had multiple properties?
No, he just the house that we lived in he owned, and then he owned the house he lived in, an apartment.
But he had to have a lot of money.
Well, like I say, plumbers made decent money.
This was your mother's father?
Yeah, it's my mother's father. Mendy's father, my husband's father, he years ago, they used to manufacture men's clothing. And then they lost it all. They went bankrupt. And then he worked for the American Clothing. And his mother, she was a stay-at-home. A real stayed at home, took care of her children, took care of the house. That was her life. That's what she liked.
So you were one of 7.
6.
6. So what was that like, and how was it?
Wonderful.
So tell me a little bit about your childhood with all...
When we were young, there was 4 sisters, right? We lived in 1 bedroom. Leona and I slept in 1 room, 1 bed, and Gert and Ray slept in the other bed. And then there was a bedroom that was for my brothers Abe and Seymour. They had their own bedroom. And we used to play hopscotch, and Remember when it would rain and you'd get a lot of water out on the road? We want to play like ships. So the sticks from the popsicle, we each would have one, and we'd put it in the water and see which stick floated. The whatchamacallit. And then when I met Mendy, I met him. I knew who he was, but I met him coming up the steps from the center. He was coming down the bowling alley, and I was coming up. And I, believe it or not, I was very bashful at those days. What made me, I said, hi. And after that, he called me for a date. But when he called me, he wanted to date my sister Gert. But he had the names mixed up, so he asked for Ruth, and he got me. So, and I remember going to a dance, and his date he didn't like, and I didn't like my date, and we both left our dates, and we went out together.
Was it love at first sight, or did you guys?
The first date that I had, I purposely went and bought flat shoes because I thought I was taller than him. I was afraid he'd be too tall that I'd be too tall for him. Because I was taller than I am now. But he was taller than me.
What'd you do on your first date?
We went to a place called Carney's. Your parents would know who they are. And it was like a barbecue place. And they had like a dance floor. And you'd go there for a barbecue, you'd have a dance, they had the most delicious pie. And one thing, when Mendy would come for me to date, he always wore sweaters, the nicest sweaters. And he wore, do you remember ever see the farmers wear the red plaid jackets, for the cold weather? Mm-hmm. Well, if Mendy came to pick me up on a date and he was dressed like that, Gert would holler, "Hey Ruth, Mendy's here." But if he was dressed, he had a suit on, she'd holler, "Strauss, Mendy's here." So I'd know which way he dressed. He never liked to get he always looked nice, but so what else can I tell you? I don't know.
I'm going to fix your neck in a second. It keeps going with the thing, hitting the microphone.
Take this out?
No, leave it. It's good.
I want to know what else it was like. Like, did you get along with your brothers and sisters? Were they...
We got along wonderful.
Were your
Never
brothers...
fought. In fact, I could wear Aunt Gert's clothes, but she couldn't wear mine because I was too tall for her to wear them. But one thing she knew, if I would take a pair of her shoes and wear them, and I'd say, "No, I didn't wear those shoes," she said, "You sure did, because I used to walk, the heel would go this." So she knew I wore her shoes. But I'm going to tell you something. There was 4 of us. We never fought, believe it or not. Never fought. You may disagreed on something, but never fought.
I thought you said there were 6.
Huh?
There were 6.
The 4 girls.
4 girls.
4 girls, never fought.
Were you closest with 1 or 2, or were you...
The 4 of us were very close. We were known as the Strauss sisters. Yeah. Everybody knew us as the Strauss sisters. Whatchamacallit.
Where did you fall? Were you the youngest, or were you the oldest?
I was the youngest of the sisters. My brother, the one brother, was the youngest.
Which brother was the youngest?
Seymour was the youngest. He passed away at 58 years old. He was very young. And I don't know what else.
Were your brothers protective? Did you have protective brothers of the sisters?
Oh, you know what? In those days, you didn't have to be worried to be protective. It's not like today. You could walk anywhere. I used to go 11 o'clock. My dad kept his grocery store open till 11 o'clock at night. God forbid somebody needed a loaf of bread that he shouldn't be open. It was nothing for me to walk down on Market Street at 11 o'clock at night up at the Heights. We weren't afraid. It isn't like today.
Tell me about when you first got together with Mendy. What was that like? When you first started getting serious and realizing that, you know, do you remember like how he proposed to you?
I'm telling you, he said to me when we were going out, and finally, first I went with him in November, and I got engaged in August. But he once said to me, "Will you wait 2 years?" I said, "Absolutely not." Then finally, he said, "Well, how about 1 year?" I said, "I'll wait 1 year." And it was one. I went with him the first time in November, and we got married the following year in November. So he kept his word, and I kept my word. And we were neighbors. He lived down the street from us on South Wells Street. And I used to peek through the window in my house. I wanted to see if his car was out front in his house, and waiting to see if he's going to call me on the telephone. Whatchamacall? Trying to think what else.
What did you used to do together?
Well, we'd go out, and I'll never forget. Well, we were married already in the beginning of our wedding. Marriage, I mean. And at the S&B, they used to have a New Year's Eve party. It was one of the fraternities always had. It used to be called the Snowball, okay? And I went and bought a dress, very pretty rose-colored dress. And the dress, when you wore it, it was like open here. You saw your skin. And he says, "Are you going to wear that?" I said, "Sure, I'm going to wear that." See, at that time, God forbid you should show any skin. I wore it.
Did you get hit on?
Huh?
Did you get hit on by other men that night?
Who knows whatchamacallit. But I'm going to tell you something. I would have been married 50 years. I never had a fight with my husband.
What was this?
I mean, he never had a fight with me. If it was me, it was me. And he never thought anything was serious enough to fight. And he always would say, "You do not go to bed being angry." And we'd always kiss and make up.
Is that the secret?
Huh?
Is that the secret to having a long...
I'm telling you. In fact, when he had passed away, the rabbi had brought that up. He said he couldn't believe it, that a man would not argue in almost 50 years. He didn't think, he thought it was foolish to argue over silly things. But see, I would. Not fight, but I just argue or something like that. But he never, we'd go to bed and I know I'm mad. I wouldn't. You never go to bed, you have to kiss and make up.
Was Mendy in the war?
Sure.
Was that before you got married, or was he...
Yeah, before I got married.
Were you dating him at the time?
Nope. When he came back from the war, that's when I first met him at the center, when I told you I was the whatchamacallit. And he was in the service for 4 years. The day he left, he never come home.
Talk to Leah. Look at
The day, yeah.
So what did he used to tell you? Any stories about where he'd been and how?
Yes, he used to tell us about when they flew. I think it was India, and they flew over the hump. And when they were flying, they were told either if the plane doesn't make it, to try and get back, or you just got lost. If you ran out of, fuel.
Was he in the Air Force or the Army? Or what?
Air Force. He used to break the codes. That's what he did in the Air Force.
Was he a pilot?
No.
Not a pilot?
He broke like the Morse code
Yeah, that's what he would do.
for Americans or for the other or did he try to like?
Well, he would like, in other words, he would like try and break the codes from the other countries. Like, that's what he was doing. That's what he did. What do they call it?
Code breaker?
What'd you say?
Code breaker?
Yeah, but there was another word for it that they whatchamacallit. And I remember when he said when they got to China, they were so hungry, they didn't have food. There was only rice. He said some of the guys actually ate their soap. They were so hungry that there was no food for them to eat. Until, you know, the company, I guess the Americans, till they brought food into them, this is what happened to them in China. He was all over.
I want to hear stories about whatever he's told you, like of the different stories.
I'm telling you, he was all over. He was in Egypt. He was through Israel. They weren't, stopped there anyway. But they flew past Israel, he said. And I don't know. What else?
Do you know about some of the stories any of his stories from being in the countries?
Not really.
What about the honey dippers?
Oh, you mean that.
Tell that story.
Well, I don't remember it that, but they used to go with the carts, the big barrels, and they did not with mules now. A human would, you take your arm and the two, whatchamacallit, and they were called the honey dippers. You know what the honey dipper is picking up?
I don't know.
Huh? The honey dippers was picking up poo.
So wasn't this in China?
Yeah, that's where they did it, in China. And
weren't there just trenches and people just used to go to the bathroom in the trenches?
Yes, sure. That's how they didn't have no bathrooms. You used to dig a trench, and that's where they would go. I didn't know you want to hear that.
Yeah.
That's where they would go. They would carry their own toilet paper. And China was a terrible life for them. It really was.
How long were they in China? You know? Was he was he in Europe at all, or was he mostly in Asia?
He was mostly in like China, and he wasn't this. No, Uncle Sam was in Europe. He was in England and all.
It looks like he was in Italy.
He was in Italy.
In Egypt, and it said
Italy, Egypt.
Oh yeah, that's in Egypt.
And
Morocco.
wait, no, I'm trying to think.
So he was in Morocco then.
Yeah.
Do you know anything about? Did he used to tell you the stories about Rommel, the desert?
Oh,
fox?
he once told us a story about Eisenhower when they were, they were marching along the road, and Eisenhower stopped, and Mendy didn't have his helmet on, and he went over to him. He said, "Young man," he said, "you get your helmet on." But that was Eisenhower, General Eisenhower, whatchamacallit.
Do you know the story about?
You know more than I do.
Do you know the story? I think it may have been in China with the guy blowing his nose. They didn't know about handkerchiefs.
Oh no, they just blew their nose and on blew their nose in their hand, and then would just go like this on the sidewalk. They didn't and the Chinese would say to them, see, the Americans would complain that they would, so the Chinaman said, "Well, you blow your nose in a handkerchief and carry it around all day." So when you stop and think, it's true. Am I right? Sure. You're.
Those are my two favorite stories: the honey dippers and the blowing snot.
See, you remember more, Leah, than what Pop-Up's telling you than I whatchamacallit. What else? I tell you enough.
How old were you when you and Mendy got married?
I was 23. And Mendy was like 2.5 years older than me. So he would have been going on 26.
Were you nervous about getting married?
Huh?
Were you nervous about getting married? Like,
No.
something that you wanted? Like, were you looking?
No. And,
You talk to Leah.
and right after we got married,
To me, because it's the way the film is. You have to talk
oh,
to
talk to you. Right after we got married, a couple months after we got married, I had to get my appendix out. And he said, see, you waited till we got married so I'd pay for your appendix. Yeah, he used to kid around.
me. So tell the story that you were telling me before about everybody coming to the synagogue. Tell the story about your wedding.
My wedding, well, we were known, my family, we were well known up on the hill, okay? Because my dad was in the grocery business all his life. And when I got married, well, I gave Leah a picture. Our shul, the Prentice shul, was packed. The downstairs was, oh, okay.
Look at me.
The downstairs was completely filled, and the upstairs was completely filled. People just came to see me get married. That's true. Well, you saw the picture that it shows.
Where was the party at? Tell us about the party.
We were, where's the party?
The dinner afterwards.
At the, what did I say was it?
The Talmud tour.
Tomator. In the vestry rooms, in the Tomator. And you had Mr. Levy played the violin, and another man played. That was the music at my wedding.
Did you sign a ketubah?
Yes, we signed the ketubah. I don't remember what. And then on our honeymoon, we first went to New York. No, we first went to Atlantic City. And then we went to we were in Atlantic City for so many days. And then we went to New York. And while we were in New York, Mendy had went to buy some merchandise. And then it was stolen out of his car. His car was robbed. Whatever he bought was stolen.
What did he buy?
Well, for what he would sell in the store, you know, toys or whatchamacallit. Then, on our way back, driving home, because we drove, and while we were driving home, you know, they have, the yellow lines on the road? So I guess Mendy must have passed. You don't pass on a yellow line. So the police stopped us, and he said to Mendy, you don't pass on a yellow line. And Mendy said, you know, he said, I was robbed in New York. He said they took all my merchandise, and all. The policeman let us go. He didn't even give him a ticket. He felt sorry for us.
So, what was the name of your dad's store, the grocery store?
Strauss's Market.
Where was it located?
On Market Street. First, it was on South Hancock Street. We were across the street from the school. And that's where I went to school, grade school.
What school?
Weaver Street School. That's what it was called. And kids used to come to my dad's store for candy, and they'd say, give me a penny's worth of this. Then they'd go all the way down the aisle, give me a penny's worth of this. Then they'd come back, give me a penny's worth of this. You bought penny's worth of whatchamacallit. And I still remember my teachers' names. Mrs. Flegel, Miss McMahon, Miss Rosser was the principal, she was the principal. And you used to, like when you were going to enter the school, and also after recess, they played the record. Each person would get a chance. And it was a Victrola machine. And what's the one, Sousa, or what's the one that used to, the marches?
John Philip Sousa.
Seuss?
Huh?
John
Seuss?
Philip Sousa.
Oh, Sousa.
Yeah. That's what they would play, and you would march into the classroom. So I was there till 6th grade.
Did you have the Yehuda after you got married?
I what? Say that again?
Is it Yehuda?
Uh-huh.
Did you have a Yehuda after you got married?
What's a Yehuda?
I guess not.
It's like a place at a time where you get alone time after the wedding.
They leave you alone? No, 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 no. We weren't that religious. In fact, they put you in a room, and you stay there. Then when you go out, they look to see what the sheet.
That's what it is.
Yeah, whether there's any red on the sheet.
That's what they were telling us. So tell me about Mendy's store, the Rubin Specialty Co.
Oh, yeah. Oh, I'm going to tell you something. My husband was so well liked, and he was very thought of a lot. I don't know, he just had that whatchamacallit. And he used to went on the road, and I used to go down in the afternoon and stay in the store. And then when he would come back off the road, I would go home. Because we lived up on the hill. I lived on Sherman Street.
Tell me a little.
First I lived on Grand Street, then I lived on Sherman Street. And when we moved to Kingston on 3rd Ave, I cried. I was homesick. I had to go back up on the hill. Believe it or not. Yeah.
So you moved back to the hill then?
Huh?
So you moved back to the hill, or you just?
I moved back to the hill.
So what was the store? What kind of store was it? And tell me a little bit about that.
My husband's store? Oh, he had a nice sized store. He was on East Northampton Street. And he sold all kind of toys, drugs, paper products, but it was all wholesale. He was whatchamacallit. And then, when they had the flood, everything was...
He had the one store, the whole...
No, in other words, he had like 2 stores. One store he kept, he had the merchandise. Okay, I'm sorry. One store, he would keep all the stuff there, and the other store, well, he had stuff in both stores, to be truthful with you.
What was the name of the store?
Rubin Specialty Company. Yeah. Well, you have the sign. Yeah, it was Rubin Specialty Company. And his brother Sam worked there.
How many brothers and sisters did Mendy have?
Just brother Sam and his sister, and Bernie, who lives in Florida, and his sister Dorothy.
Aunt Dutsy.
Yeah, we used to call her Dutsy. Whatchamacallit. I had a wonderful mother-in-law. She never butted in. No, that's true. Never never asked why you're doing this or what you're doing that. No. And never would go anywhere. If we'd stop and say, Mom, you want to go with us? We're going for a ride. No, I'm going to sit in Porchville. She used to call. She was a wonderful person.
What'd you call it? Porch what?
Huh?
What'd you call it? Porch?
Porchville. She would sit in other words, just leave her alone, and she'd sit on the porch, and even if she went to town, she would walk. She would never ask the boys, give me a ride, or never, really. She never bothered anybody.
What about your father-in-law?
Well, I see, him I didn't know too much, because, let's see, Mel was born, in fact, Mel was born, I think it was 9 or 10 months right after I was married. Yeah, I wanted to have a child right away. So he was, in fact, I said to Mendy, it's a good thing it's 9 or 10 months or everybody would think I had to get married because Mel was a preemie. See, I was married already 9 or 10 months, but Mel was born not quite 7 months. So that's why I said I was glad I was married. I was married 9, 10 months, so people won't think I had to get married.
They would think it was a shotgun wedding.
They think you would have a bun in the oven before.
No, 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 oh, no, my God, no.
So what was Uncle Mel like?
Well, Uncle Mel was 2 months in the hospital. He only weighed 3.5 pounds. He went down to 3. And I guess I could say it. When I come home, I used to pump myself for milk. And Mindy would take the milk to the hospital. And they would, when he would get to the hospital, they'd say, "Here comes the milkman." So yeah, whatchamacallit. So, yeah, because Mel wasn't circumcised. Mel won't want to till he was 2 months old. Because they wouldn't let him out of the hospital until he weighed 5 pounds.
What were Mindy's parents' names?
Huh?
What were Mindy's parents' names?
Oh, Fanny and William Rubin.
And could you tell us the story about how they came over?
I have no idea.
Well, tell us the story about the...
Tell us the story about William dressing up as a woman.
Oh, well, they told me that. In other words, to get out of, I guess, wherever he was, he had to disguise himself to get out of the country. And he dressed up as a woman. And that's how he got out. So why or what, I have no idea. I really don't.
Do you know where they were from? Did they say where?
They were also from Russia or Russia, Poland, whatever. They were.
It was all the same at that time, probably, because they were all different parts of Russia.
And his grandmother, that would be his mother's mother, went to school here. And she was a very learned woman. She was like a little doll. She was very short. She was completely gray at 21 years old. And when you'd go to her house, the first thing she would do would be put a piece of newspaper on the table and get out a Pepsi and some cake. And we'd go visit her.
Is this Mindy's mother?
Mindy's grandmother. His mother's mother.
What was her name?
Rutstein was her marriage name, because that's his mother's name was Rutstein.
Remember her name, though? Her first name?
Sarah Rutstein. And her one son was killed in the First World War. That was Mindy's uncle. And that's who Mindy was named after. In fact, the auxiliary, the post 212, veterans post 212, was named after Mindy's uncle.
What was Mindy's uncle's name?
Well, Mindy's name, it was wait now. What's the W.R. Rutstein post?
William.
The one here in town. What's the name?
W.R. Rutstein.
I know it's the Rutstein post.
I don't know. Do you know? Well, his name was Irving.
Wait, no. No, the I.R. Rutstein post. His name was Irving. And that's who Mindy was named after. The Irving R. Rutstein post 212. That's what the one that's here in town.
So what did his grandfather, how did he die in the war?
It wasn't his grandfather, it was his uncle.
How did his uncle die in the war?
He was in, where they had these big, that you would watch, watch to see if there was planes coming or something. These towers, these towers. Well, he would be, when he was killed, that's where he was. And he was supposed to go home the next day. He was killed the day before he was supposed to go home.
So they just blew it up?
Yeah.
So where did Mendy come from? If his name was Irving?
He doesn't know himself. That was a nickname, and I used to say myself, I said, well, where does Mendy come from? You know, in fact, his middle name he never knew until he sent away for his birth certificate. It came back, his name was Irving Robert Rubin.
I never knew that.
Yeah, his middle name is Robert. Well, when he graduated high school, it was him and Shaman and one of the Sugarman boys, and I'm trying to think which, and none of them had a middle name. Well, I think I showed you that paper. Didn't I show it to you? Or who did I show it to? His graduation, it's in that envelope. So they each picked the middle name. So Mendy picked it, Irving Leroy. Of all names, he picked Leroy. So, yeah.
So on his birth certificate it says Irving
On
Leroy?
his graduation.
Leah, in that envelope, you're going to see his diplomas in there. And it's Irving Leroy Rubin. So,
Did he have a good sense of humor, Mendy?
yeah.
Tell him some stories.
Huh?
Tell him some stories.
For instance, you tell me what, and I'll tell you what's the story.
Well, I don't know what he was like around Daddy and Uncle Mel. I just know how he was around me. So like, what did he used to do like around my daddy and?
Oh, what's the matter? He didn't like us to play with his hair, comb his hair. He loved that. Or he liked if you tickled his arm, like like if you went like this
What about when we used to sit on his hat?
on his hat. I think you still got his hat.
I have his new one. I don't have the old one.
Oh, you don't have the old one? And scratch his back. He used to love to have his back scratched. But I remember he used to take a comb and fool around with his hair on his head.
What about Daddy and Uncle Mel? How were they with Pop-Up?
They were good. You know what? They never fought, Mel and your father. I'm telling you.
What about Penguin?
Oh, well, they used to call Billy Mel Penguin, but he never fought.
They name called.
Nah, that was
We
nothing.
don't want to talk about that.
Do you know what? They would never, after all, I got 3 bedrooms, never wanted a separate bedroom. That's all they wanted. They slept in the same room in twin beds.
All through high school they did?
Huh?
All through high school?
Yeah. Never wanted their own bedroom.
So you said you were homesick when you moved to Kingston. How did you end up moving to Kingston for good? To Dawes.
Well, when I lived in the Heights, I lived in an apartment with 1 bedroom, okay? Then I was pregnant with Billy, so I had another baby, so I had to get a bigger apartment. So I had a cousin that lived in Kingston, and on 3rd Ave, there was apartments, like 2-bedroom apartments. And I got a 2-bedroom apartment. And that's when I had your dad. In fact, when I brought your dad home, Mel come out with the measles. And I had a nurse coming to the house to help me for a couple weeks. And they called the nurse. No, she said she would come. And Dr. Rubin said it was all right because the baby would still be immune. So I brought Billy home. I needed another bedroom. So that's how I came over here. And I got homesick and I'd cry.
So what year did you get married?
What year? 1946. I was married.
So it would be 50 years.
I would have been married 60 years if Mendy had lived.
What's the date? No, when did you?
Mendy died June the 3rd.
Right.
When did you get married? What date?
I got married November the 24th. It was Thanksgiving.
When we met for our first
Yeah.
date. We had our first date
On November 24th?
It was the day before
the day
Thanksgiving.
before Thanksgiving.
But-
Well, actually, it continued on until 4 in the morning. So
But
yes.
but no, that's when we got married, November the 24th. Whatchamacallit. So you got enough to say, or more yet?
Well, tell us something that we didn't. Tell me,
Well, tell me what you want. I don't know what the heck to tell you yet. Leah?
Tell us something that.
Tell us something I don't know.
What haven't we asked you? Is there anything we haven't asked you that you'd like?
And what?
Is there anything we haven't asked you that about you and Mendy?
What?
You have 83 years. You gotta let me know some stuff.
You want to hear when your father was circumcised?
Yeah. I do.
There was when no, it wasn't Billy. Billy was circumcised over in Kingston. And I would never stay when the boys were circumcised. And I ran out of the house, and Rabbi Hurwitz circumcised him. And I went out screaming. I wouldn't stay there, whatchamacallit. But he was fine. That's right. And I had at that time, things were a little better, so I had a nurse that came and stayed. Whatchamacallit. Yeah, what else?
You've got a lot. You've lived for a very long time, so you should have tons of stories.
Oh my God! Listen, when when my Mel was circumcised, it was terrible. There was a new rabbi came in town, and Mendy insisted. He's the rabbi of the shul. At that time, we belonged to the Holchiosha shul that was on Lincoln Street. Okay. And after he was circumcised, it was terrible. He was bleeding, and we had to call the doctor back, and my father ran out of the house. It was one of the worst days of my life. And we had to call the doctor back to take care of him. And then we used to keep him in like a bassinet, and we used to keep a light underneath. And he always wore a hat. We had to keep a hat on his head. And yeah, and his feet with little booties, because he was still so little yet.
So Mendy was the president of the Anshemis.
No, printer.
Tell me a little bit about what he was and.
No. He wasn't the president of the printer. He was president when the
Vice president of the Anshemis.
huh?
Was he the vice president or president of the Anshemis?
No, no. It was not called the Anshemis. See, the shuls together, the printer shul, it was called the United Orthodox Synagogue, emerged with the Anshemis shul. And Mendy was president, oh my God, I don't know how long. He was president for a long, long time.
Of what shul?
It was called the what did I just say?
Prentice?
No, whatchamacallit?
United Orthodox?
It was called the United Orthodox Synagogue when he was president.
And that was all the shuls in the Heights.
Right. The four shuls went together because they didn't have enough for a minyan at the time.
Was he a religious guy?
What?
Was Mendy religious? Like, did he come from a religious family? And was he very religious?
Well, I wouldn't, I wouldn't say he was. We always belonged to an Orthodox, right? But we weren't real Orthodox. Let me say, real Orthodox. And then we went to. He went for Minyan every day. Mendy did. Every day he was at Minyan. The only time he didn't go for Minyan would be a Sunday because he wanted to sleep in. But if they needed a 10th man and they would call him, he never refused. Never. And he did a lot of work for the shul. And he was very well liked. Right, Leah?
Because I remember going into the Anshemis downstairs and they had 2 Torahs with coverings.
Well, yeah, that, in other words, that was originally the Anshem Shul. Where we went.
Because downstairs it's...
Now, before they emerged, we belonged to the Printer Shul. That was down, further down on Wells Street.
But he still became the president of the Anshemis because down in the...
He was never president when it was called the Anshemis.
But he was the president when I was alive.
But it wasn't the Anshemis Shul.
It was the United Orthodox.
Oh, I just called it the Anshemis then.
Yeah, but it actually was the United Orthodox Synagogue.
Because he was president when I was bat mitzvah there.
Right, right. I remember we got up and made a speech about all the shuls and how they emerged and stuff like. He had the people crying at your whatchamacallit.
So what's the secret to a long, happy marriage?
The secret for a long, happy marriage. Always make up. Don't stay mad. Like I told you, you kiss and make up. It's not worth it. Really, it isn't. To get mad and don't talk to each other for a couple days. No. If you disagree, listen, it's not going to be your whole life that you're going to completely agree with one another. That's ridiculous. You're going to disagree at things, but I'm talking about actually arguing, fighting. And if you argue, don't go to bed mad. Get up the next morning and you're both happy. Don't let her go to bed mad now. And don't you let him go to bed mad.
How many grandkids do you
You
have?
make him kiss you or he makes you whatchamacallit. Either way.
How's the makeup set?
You have to kiss.
How many grandkids? Tell me how. Because you have a wonderful big family, and you're the matriarch.
Well, I don't.
Tell me about your family a little bit.
Well, like I've 2 brothers and 3 sisters.
Are there any of them alive still?
Only one sister's alive, and she's in a nursing home. She's older than I.
What's her name?
Gertrude. And she had a son, 17 years old, who died from a brain tumor. Handsome as the day is long. In fact, I don't think whether you ever saw a picture of him. Very good looking.
What was his name?
His name was Michael. And he wanted to be a doctor. And then my brother Abe has 2 sons. There was Richard.
What was Gertrude's married name?
Trachtenberg.
Uncle Norm.
That's right, Uncle Norman. He was in the tire business.
Where did they live? Where did they live?
Philadelphia. They lived on down. It was called Oak Lane in that time, and then they moved. They bought a home, and then they lived on Henry Ave, and then they moved to Lansdale. You know, whatchamacallit. Then my oldest sister lived in Augusta, Georgia. They lived here. Her husband was vice president of Lazarus. It was called White's is the company. And then he was transferred to Augusta, Georgia, and that's where they moved. And then I had a brother. He was married to a Stoller from Scranton. And they moved to Augusta. So both of them lived in Augusta. And my sister Leona lived here in town. She lived in Green Acres. We all married neighbors. Would you believe?
What about Seymour?
Oh, Seymour lived in Philly.
Did he marry a neighbor?
Well, she lived down in South Wilkes-Barre. But Ray married, Julius lived right next door. Leona's husband lived across the street. Oh, Gert didn't live with a neighbor. And Mendy lived up the street from me.
What about your grandkids?
My grandkids.
How many grandkids do you have?
Well, how many grandkids do I have? I have 5 grandchildren.
You have to tell it on tape.
I have 5 grandchildren.
What are they like?
Oh, they're delightful. I love them all. I have...
You love me the most?
No, that's not nice.
Teasing.
I know. Leah Rubin don't give... she calls me so much she worries about me.
What did I used to do when we were younger?
Listen, when Leah was 3 or 4 years old, they used to live 2 doors down from me, where I live right now. And it's a bitter cold day. And I'm looking out the door, and here walks this little Pitzela. I'll bet she may be 3, 4 years old. She's coming to my house to visit. It was bitter cold, no coat on or nothing. And I called her mother on the phone, and I said, Sherry, is Leah home? Yeah, she's home, she said. I said, is she? I said, look in the house and see if she's home. And then I told her she was at my house. And then there was Mikey, my Mikey, and Julie. And then I have Jeffrey and Don. 5 grandchildren.
We used to sleep over.
Oh, you used to fight to sleep over. Both of you at the same time. Then it would be you and Julie. But I enjoyed it.
And we used to play gin.
Right? We played gin rummy in the kitchen.
And we used to watch Dallas on TV.
Right?
And Pop-Pop used to hit me on the tushy. Because how did I used to sleep?
And remember...
My butt used to stick up.
That's
I used
right.
to...
And remember our dog?
Taffy?
Taffy. Everybody liked Taffy. They weren't afraid of him. He was a good dog. Hey, what else?
Are we tiring you out?
No, I'm just trying to figure out what else you want me to talk about. I don't know.
You probably have so many interesting stories in your head.
I don't know what could be so interesting in my life, to be truthful.
Did you ever work, or did you just work at the store?
No, I worked I was a bookkeeper. And
Where did you work?
to be the truth with the salesmen were always after me. They liked me.
Where did you work as a bookkeeper?
I worked for the Boston Furniture. That was downtown. They were like related with the Savitzes, you know, like the American Furniture and People's Furniture, and there was the Boston Furniture.
Was this before you were married?
This was before I was married. And the day I got married, that's the day I quit. I stopped working.
And now, then where do you work now?
Well, I used to go to Mendy's store.
And now where do you go?
Now I go to my son's
What does
and
he
do
do?
some bookkeeping for him.
What does your son do?
He's a veterinarian.
Where does he practice?
Where does he practice? He has his own business on Market Street. It's called West Side Veterinarian Hospital.
Are you proud of your son?
I certainly am.
Could you tell us a little bit about little Billy?
Huh?
Tell us about little Billy.
Little Billy. What about him?
Little Willie Rubin.
Oh, he was good. He was a good. I'll tell you, they never really fought.
But what
They
was
may
it
have
like?
argued, but never a fist fight or anything like that.
But what did Daddy used to do when he was a kid and stuff?
He would holler upstairs, "What do you want to do? Shake the chandeliers?" They would just run back and forth in the room. And your father talked in his sleep. Yeah. He could have a conversation with Mel.
Didn't he used to horseback ride and play?
Oh my God, I would take him. He was, I don't know, they're 14. I would drive him every day out to Harvey's Lake. He used to bother us so much, he wanted a horse. And your father? That's all he wanted, a horse, a horse, a horse. So Mindy finally bought him a horse. And he used to keep it out to Harvey's Lake. And every time he wanted to go out the lake and ride his horse. So I used to have to drive him there. In fact, I used to say my car could go by itself. That's how much I used to. I had so many, well, I finally took him down. I had so many ribbons from him winning when they had the horse shows. And he would win, like, either the blue ribbon was first place, the red ribbon was second place. Well, you used to see the ribbons I used to hang along the whole wall upstairs. There's still some trophies up there that he won. But the first time he was in a horse show, and they opened the gate, that horse ran so quick out of the stall, and he was so mad that he hit the horse. Billy hit the horse and ran right out of the ring. That was the first time he was in a horse show. But otherwise, we always went to see him in the horse show. And it was amazing. He was actually the only Jewish boy out there. There was not another Jewish person riding horses out there. And everyone was nice to him. Really. He got along with it. And, what's his name? He was a nice guy. I think they used to have a furniture show, a store. And him and I'm trying to think the other Jewish fellow, they both had horses out there. But this one fella,
Hoffman?
no.
Necklace?
What's the name?
Lease, Roy?
Right?
No, he used to drive him 1 o'clock, and I always stayed up till he come home. And 1 o'clock in the morning, you would hear walking down the street. It's Billy. Happy-go-lucky. And he'd come in the house, and he'd say, "What are you doing, Mom?" Sitting up. Just watching TV. I didn't want to say that I was, waiting for him to come home. I didn't want him to feel bad that I didn't trust him or something like that. But he loved horses. And then when he went to college, and he had to get rid of his horse. In fact, his horse was, trying to think if his horse was named Sam. It was brown and white. But then when he went into college, he had to sell his horse. But he was very particular who he would sell it to. He had to make sure the people were nice, and whatchamacallit. And he finally sold it. And that was the end of the horse.
Any final thoughts, Ruthie?
Huh?
Any final thoughts or anything you want to say to conclude?
Well, I didn't hear what you said.
Do you have any thoughts that or any remarks you want to make? Any final comments?
No, not really. Well, the only final one is that I had a wonderful life. I had a wonderful husband. I got 2 wonderful sons. I got 2 wonderful daughter-in-laws. They're like, I don't consider them daughter-in-laws, I consider them daughters. And I got 5 wonderful grandchildren. They should live to be happy and well and have a wonderful life. And I don't wish them anything bad if I tell them I had a life like I had. They'll be happy. And I mean it.
I love you.
I love you too, honey.
Alright.
Still going?
Is there anything else you want to ask?
I want to know everything, but
Huh?
I don't. It's whatever comes out of your head.
Ask us something else. Do you have any more? You're on the hot seat now.
I'm on the hot seat.
You say something.
I don't know.
You're nervous?
I'm not nervous.
You're shy.
I'm shy.
You're what?
I'm shy.
You're shy. Believe it or not, I used to be shy.
I'm not shy.
And you know what I say now? At my age, I could say whatever I want. And if they don't like it, that's tough. You know, when I was in school, when I was in high school, and I would walk the hall, like, or something, and the guys would be out in front, not that I'm bragging now, don't get me wrong, and they would make, you know, remarks like, and stuff like that. In fact, even in my book, graduation book that you would get, the Bridlin it was called. And the guys one of the guys wrote, "Don't be so shy in 40 as you are in 39." And they would try and, you know, make remarks when I was very shy, believe it or not. And I'd walk past.
When did you stop being shy?
Maybe after I got married. Whatchamacallit. Really, I was, believe it or not. But I wasn't a big talker like I am now. Whatchamacallit. And, but like I say, now I say what I want, and if they don't like it, that's tough. That's all. Oh, God.
Right. Excellent.
What does this do if I touch this?
You hear it?
You can. I don't put it on my. Wow. Hello. Goodbye.
Thanks, Ruthie.
Well, I hope it comes out all right.
It'll come out.
It's gonna come out
Mother's Day or my birthday? It's the same thing. I don't want to say nothing. But here, look. A beautiful form. Look at the size of it.
Yeah, I
Do I need one that size? Look at
Yeah.
this. What am I gonna put? One hot dog in there? Jesus. Oh God. So where are you going now?
Say goodbye to his parents.
Well, you're going down to.
Gonna go say goodbye to David and Terry
Yeah.
and Matt and Steph. Then we're gonna go up and see my parents. Say good, you know.
Yeah.
We'll eat somewhere along the way because everyone's eating everywhere we're going. I think
What do you mean you're gonna eat something on the way?
no, like I'll either eat at Terry's or I'll eat at my parents.
Oh.
And then we have to
Yeah,
finish
your
packing.
parents said they're not going down though. Dad said he's tired.
They're exhausted.
He is.
He needs to go back to work.
Listen, I'm gonna tell you something. They both.
They work really hard.
That's right. Your mother's there a long day, and well, your dad gets up early. He's there a long day, and
They deserve to relax.
that's
And
right.
I hear you're going up tomorrow.
Where?
Up at the house for dinner.
Oh yeah. Your
Mom
dad.
said you're gonna come up for a cookout or something.
Yeah, Dad said that.
But see, I had to see you today anyway, because otherwise I'm not seeing you tomorrow.
That's right. That's right.
I'm glad I got to spend some time with you today.
Oh God, it's my pleasure.
But guess what? Next time I come in,
You're gonna be getting
see
married.
that man right there?
Right there.
He's gonna
He's
be
gonna-
my husband. That's crazy.
And then, like he said, then he'll call me Nina. Right?
I'm already calling you Nina.
Good.
And Grandma Sarah,
Yes, Sarah, God bless her.
she's hysterical.
Yes. Boy, I tell you, her daughter looks so much like her.
Oh, my
Renee,
goodness.
don't
I
they?
really like Renee a lot.
Oh, she's nice.
She's so sweet.
Yes.
And Sophia, how gorgeous is she? And Kim, they're gorgeous.
Yeah, but she's, I never, but she's a picture. Sarah can't deny her.
Yeah.
As a daughter.
So she could deny David, but she can't deny Renee.
That's right. In fact, I told David, I got a call this week. I gotta get a new mattress. My back is killing me when I get up.
He'll help you out.
Yeah.
Just tell him, see.
He said to lay on the mattress with me. And tell me which one's good. He's funny. He's got some sense of humor, David.
He's a piece of work. I'll give him that. And you have to enjoy your treats.
Oh, I will later.
My daddy said you like brownies.
I do.
That's why I brought them down.
Could I get
And the
a?
funniest thing, I'm not that big of a chocolate eater. You know?
He wants a hug on TV.
Oh. Put your face there so you see your.
Well, I want him to see your face, not my face.
I love you.
See what he used to sing? I love you. A
Bushel
bushel
and
and
a
a
peck,
peck.
a bushel and a peck, and a hug around the neck. A bushel and a peck, a hug around the neck. Ah, la, 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 la. We're cuckoo, aren't we, Ryan?
It's okay. We're cuckoo too. Right?
I'm gonna tell you something. This is unbelievable. I mean,